Welcome to the Jerry Anderson podcast, which today begins with the presenter guilty of a revealing slip of the tongue. The email address is jerry.anderson@bbc.co.uk and the sex... Oh, sorry.
Sex. What's on your mind today?
I'm sorry. The sex messaging service. I'm terribly sorry. That was a Freudian slip. That's the kind of text I send.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I apologise for that. The text messaging service. I didn't mean to say that. 81771. Look, somebody's left a scarf here. Look, that's a woman's scarf. Who's been in here?
I don't know.
Who's that?
Ken.
Who's...
You know what he's like at the weekend.
Anyway, listen. Cruelty. There are a lot of cruel people out there. A gentleman writes to me and he said, you were talking the other day about what you would have in your T-shirt whilst you're running the New York Marathon. What about this? If I flatline, do not resuscitate. Isn't that cruel? Yeah. Some people have no consideration of... I mean, it is quite possible that when I do the New York Marathon, I may die.
We'll bury you, don't worry.
No, but I don't mind, being buried. It's just that I would, rather avoid it. But it's a possibility. But I'm prepared to put myself at risk. Do you know why?
You won't die.
No, I will put myself... Look at me.
Look at me. So you don't have to complete the marathon. Do as much as you can.
What do you mean I don't have to complete it? Do you think I'm some kind of cheat? Do you think I'm Nolan?
Do what you can.
But do you know what I want to do? I'm like Hugo.
There's a good 3 to 5 mile in you.
Listen, there's more than that. I'm like Hugo. I want to put something back. The presenter has a number of pasts. Before he became a member of the BBC family, he followed a number of careers, some honourable, but some downright criminal.
I was out walking last night and a man approached me.
That seems to happen regularly. As a matter of fact, on a daily basis. What is it that attracts men to you?
Well, this man pulled up alongside him.
Curb crawling, was he?
Oh, this man was in a car.
What?
It's true, he was in a car.
That's what I'm saying. He was curb crawling. Yeah.
And he put the passenger window down and he was shouting across the car to me.
That's what they do, yeah.
Yes.
You see a lot of that behind the BBC in Belfast.
And he said to me...
What?
He says, I better not say that. I was going to say, I've got one for you, Coyle. But he said, I have a story for you, Coyle, about your man. You.
Me, yes.
He said he worked with you.
Did he?
Now, I don't know his name.
All right, then. Well, maybe perhaps some clues as to what the place of employment would have been.
Right. He worked with you when you worked in R.A. Burke.
Oh, right. R.A. Burke, ship brokers and forwarding agents.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And he said...
Envoys to Portugal.
You were a proper little Del boy. He said that you used to get cigarettes and foreign drink, like foreign whiskey and whatever, rum or whatever from the boats, and
That's
you sold it to people.
Yeah,
right. And he said, and then he said to me, he says, "Ask him about the floorboard."
I was just about to say that.
Yes,
I was just about to say that.
He said, "Ask him about the floorboards in the office." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Just say to him, ask him what did he keep under the floorboards in the office."
Well,
whatever it was, anyway, you sold it.
Yes.
Whatever it was under the floorboard. Hope it wasn't guns.
No, it was no. It was before guns. We didn't think of guns in those days. That was only later.
What did you keep under the floorboard?
I can't tell you, but
he wouldn't tell me either.
No, but he wouldn't. Of course, he wouldn't.
You got them from the boats, from the sailors.
I certainly did.
Yes, so I'm beginning.
Well, you see, there's a side of me that maybe perhaps you don't know anything about. I'm a little blackmailer. Yes. No, not a blackmailer. What's the word? Contraband, what do you call that? Black marketer.
Right.
I'm a black marketeer.
A spiv, is it? Is it a spiv?
Well, I was never a spiv. I'm a black marketeer.
Right.
You see, do you know that in Derry/Londonderry, I discovered this very early. I went to work for this firm, a very reputable firm, who are still operating. And I have to say that, I can't say anything about the firm. They were very good to me. But anything that I say now has nothing to do with them.
Yes.
Okay. I just happened to work for them, but they knew nothing about what was going on. And at that time I discovered there were, before peace, there was an economy here. Do you remember? Mm-hmm. Boats used to come in and they used to unload cargoes. It was what's called commercial activity. Yes. All that stopped when they extended the dole. But all that used to happen, and men called dockers used to work and be paid. It was like, they were called jobs. Remember the jobs?
Right.
People had them here. So what would happen was lorries would come and take all these goods and distribute them amongst shops, and they would sell them. It's what's called banter and barter, you see. And this is the way the economy worked. And, people made money and went out and bought things. It was a strange way to live, but that's the way it was. But I discovered, and this was the shining example of how my life was to go. I remember talking to a man down there, these big warehouses down in the docks where they used to unload the boats and put all the goods in, and then maybe the lorries would come and get them the next morning, whatever, later on in the afternoon. But when they took them off the boat, they stored them in these big warehouses. You see, it could be anything: bicycles, tractors, everything.
Right.
Everything came in by sea. And I remember talking to one of the customs officials, and he said, "This is a terrible town." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Do you know how much we have to allow for pilferage?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Do you know how much we have to allow for pilferage?" I said, "How much?" He said, 33 1/3. I said, "What?" The presenter expands and explains in detail the nature of this criminal activity, secure in the knowledge that there must be some point beyond which ancient crimes are not prosecutable, if indeed such a word exists in the English lexicon. I discovered that there was a niche in the market. Cigarettes, drink,
Yes.
and something else.
Usually sell cigarettes, drink, and whatever you kept under the floorboard.
No, but see, everything was kept under the floorboard. But there was a special board
Yes.
that certain thing was kept in there. And I'm not talking about drugs or anything like that. Nothing criminal. No. All I'm saying was that whenever I got my contraband, I would bring it up and I'd put it under a certain section of the floor. Nobody knew about this. Certain people in the office knew, but none of the management knew about this, nor did the firm know anything about this. It was purely moonlighting on my part. See, we used to be in there every hour of the day, you see, because it's not a 9-to-5 job. We'd be
but the other workers knew about it.
Well, some of them did. This
man knew about it.
Well, he would have been one of the more criminal of the workers. Yes. See, a lot of them were very innocent. They only come in from 9 to 5. We were the night crew. You see, we'd come in at all times. You see, we'd be in at night, that kind of thing. So there's certain floorboards in the office that were, should I say, ajar. So there was space underneath. So there was plenty of room for contraband, cigarettes and whiskey.
Yes. And something else.
And do you know what you used to get that blue vodka?
Yes.
Stuff from Russia. And you could nearly, it was just great. It was like 90% proof or something like that. And we had cigarettes. We had Russian cigarettes. They were cardboard.
And you sold them on.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so I believe.
But there was another special floorboard under which was placed certain items. And that is what the man refers to.
That's what he said. And then off he drove and just left me. He said, what was under the floorboard?
I can't tell you what they were.
What they were.
I can't tell you what they were.
What they were.
They were very popular. The world of film still has an uncanny hold over the presenter and interruptus, both of whom can instantly recall minor details from movies that are often 60 years old. Do you know the way people hype a movie? This is the hype movie of the year. You're looking at me as if I'm some kind of weirdo.
No, I'm not. I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you because
you're listening to me?
Yes, I'm listening to you.
I can't believe it.
Yeah,
I thought you were looking at me.
I heard...
You felt sorry for the way you were looking at me there.
No, I think it was you.
See the way he was looking at me, Emma? Did you see the way he was looking at me?
I was waiting to hear something. No, I was listening. You
wouldn't hear something, then nothing came.
No, that's right. Judge Judy says...
No, all I'm saying is that I am not saying that Colin Firth, I thought he was very good, but the movie itself is not worth the hype.
You see, I think it's good to know when you're talking and someone's listening to you, and you know that someone's listening to you. You knew I was listening to you.
No, I just thought you were just about to say something horrible.
It's better that someone someone's listening to you than someone who's not listening to you, and you know they're not listening to you. That's very off-putting.
You were looking at me like...
I was looking at you, and I was. When you finished, I was about to ask you something.
You were looking at me like a dog looks at a man who's just done a card trick.
Yes, there's no answer to that.
Did you ever notice that? Did you ever see that? That's a great expression. I heard somebody saying that the other day. I said, what did he look like? He looked at me as if he was a dog who was watching a man doing a card trick. Do you ever do a card trick in front of a dog?
No.
Here, boy. And he goes up and he looks at you, and then you go, they do the card trick, and the dog just goes...
No, this is what I was going to say to you. I was going to ask you, was it you?
There's that wee horrible man, the TV, the wee man that looks like a monkey. He's always on the one. Who put this TV on? It's in the corner. I'm starting to look at it. The man on the One Show. You know, the man on the One Show, the wee man. Hello, how are you doing? Where do they get these people in the freak shows? People in the One Show? Where do they get them? Look, he's doing something about a house or something. He's on everything.
Watching TV.
I can't help it. Ken puts it on because he knows I look at it. He knows it'll make me make a mistake. Anyway,
was it you that said the other day? I heard someone say that the mark of a good film years ago was that people would be talking about it for weeks on end.
Oh, yeah, but see, people
Was it
don't
you
see
who
the
said
same
that?
movies
Was it you?
anymore.
Somebody said that, and I thought that's quite true.
No, but you were
because-
talking about television. People used to talk. They used to call it what they call it now. It's a water cooler moment. People watch the same television shows now. They used to talk about them, but they don't talk about them anymore, except Coronation
but men
Street.
talk about men. You should talk about films. Men, you should tell other men about films. You should go and see it.
Yeah,
And
but see,
they would
films
tell
have
them all
become
about it.
films have become too disposable now. See, a film is on for a week and then they forget about it.
Yes.
There was a time when you talk about a film for 2 months.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Remember the Magnificent Seven?
No, but there were
There's people I know, there are men sitting in pubs still talking about Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen yet, as we speak, and that's 60 years ago. 50. 60. 50.
Sure.
There are men who are sitting in pubs who are still asking, Can you name the Magnificent Seven, can you?
But sure,
A man said that to me the other day, and do you know something? I could. Welcome to the Daily Jerry Anderson podcast, which today examines the RTE look at Ruby Murray. The programme seems to have been found wanting. The people have communicated with me. Gerald Wiley said, my neighbour knocked on the door at 2:30 this morning. Can you believe that? He said, 2:30. Lucky for him, I was still up playing my drums. People complaining about the Ruby Murray programme on
I
last
watched
night.
it last night. I want to complain about it.
I didn't see it.
It was no good. I'm sorry. I don't know why. I don't know.
That's pretty plain.
Isn't it?
It wasn't a success.
No.
In your,
No good
Well,
at all.
people, did you see it? Says a gentleman called Sean from Newton Butler. I think you should have done this one on the BBC.
Aye.
You know, I should have.
It was all about him.
What a waste of time.
It was.
It was all about who?
Duke Special.
Oh, they should have looked at YouTube for good footage for the legend first. Didn't think much of the presentation. That's what he says. That's what the person says here.
No, I thought at one time I said, "What is this about?"
That was Duke Special,
Who
actually.
is this about?
Yeah, it was a programme on, sorry, not UTV, sorry about that. It's on RTE last night called When Duke Met, whatever it called, the Ruby, or whatever it is.
I thought it was a great disservice to Ruby.
Was it really? Well, I can't say I didn't see it. Is there some kind of thing you can look back on? Or is there a thing, an iPlayer thing on
really
RTE?
don't know.
I
But
look at it today.
I went out for my walk a little earlier than usual to come back to see it, to make sure I watched it, because Ruby Murray, fantastic person. And
You broke the habit of a lifetime.
And I came back and I sat down and I said, right, let's
You actually
watch.
pounded the roads prematurely.
Yes.
In a bid to make sure they didn't miss that
Didn't
programme.
miss it, and I sat down now with it, and halfway through it or so, I said turned to my good wife, and I said, "What is this about? This is awful."
The discussion then turns to talk from cocaine to hippopotami. Not your usual Radio Ulster fare, which normally caters to all your broadcasting needs except for hippopotamuses. It's all right for you
There's a
sitting
call
there
for one. Sorry.
preening and what?
I said, "There's a call for one."
Is there a call for one? Is there? I call that's call for two. Who is it? Is it the lady I'm talking about, Fila and Bubble?
No.
Okay, I'm talking to a lady. Could I talk to her later after this? No, after I play the next record.
Yes, that'd be wonderful.
But first of all, I'm asking you what I can do. Here's a gentleman who writes to me, Bobby Foster. He said, yesterday, I was at my local co-op buying a large bag of Purina dog food for my loyal pet. I was must be a little Protestant dog. I was in the checkout queue, or indeed the checkout queue, when a woman behind me asked me if I had a dog. What did you think I had? A hippopotamus? Referring to a documentary on... did you see that documentary on BBC 4 the other day about Pablo Escobar's hippopotami?
No.
The plural of hippopotamus is hippopotami. I find it hard to say hippopotami without popping. Did I pop when I said hippopotami?
I don't think.
Am I popping now? Saying hippopotami? Pop, 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 hippopotami? Am I popping? No?
Well, you're popping when you want to pop.
I want to pop. That's when you want to pop. Anyway, Pablo Escobar was a great drugs baron in Medellin, in Colombia, in Bogota, who supplied the world with cocaine, and he had a little pet zoo. Not a pet zoo, a private zoo. Full of hippopotami and giraffes and stuff, and they're still over there. He's long gone, but the hippopotamus is still there, and they don't know what to do with them. It's a great program. They also told the story of Pablo Escobar, and the hippopotamus has told the story. The little cartoon, the hippopotamus say, "Well, I'll tell you what happened." It's great. It's actually on the iPlayer, BBC 4, called, I don't know what it's called, but the hippopotami is in the title. Anyway, what did you think I had? A hippopotamus? So since I retired and have little to do, on impulse I told her that no, I didn't have a dog. I was starting the Purina diet again. I added that I probably shouldn't because I ended up in hospital the last time. but that I'd lost 2 stones before I woke up in intensive care with tubes coming out most of my orifices and IVs in both arms. I told her that it was essentially a perfect diet and that the way that it works is to load your pockets with Purina nuggets and simply eat one every time you feel a little peckish. The food is nutritionally complete, so it works well, and I was going to try it again. I have to mention here that practically everyone in the queue was now enthralled with my story. Horrified, she asked me if I ended up in intensive care because the dog food poisoned me. I told her no. I stepped off the curb to sniff an Irish setter's bum, and a car hit both of us. The presenter is treading water when it comes to Ruby Murray. Not having seen the programme, he is unable to give the usual jaundiced opinion. Now, here's the thing that Michelle we would upset about, and, there's no reason to be upset. That's just the way things are. I tried to view something. We talked about the Ruby Murray programme, which you said was rotten. And apparently I wanted to find out, well, I know I wanted to find out if I could watch it on RTE, perhaps tonight, if there was some kind of a playback thing. And Michelle says, I tried to view something on RTE iPlayer. A message appeared saying that it was not possible because I lived in a foreign country.
Oh.
Well, technically, I suppose. But, it doesn't feel like that, does it? Sean is right to say that the show is more about Duke Spencer than it was about Ruby Murray. You see?
Yeah.
Knowing that Duke is from Bangor, I was interested when I heard him talk of the difference between the Belfast that Ruby knew and his Belfast.
Do you know what I was surprised at?
Fit, he says. People don't say fit anymore, PFFT. What were you surprised at?
Brian Kennedy.
Yes.
Brian was on it. And Brian said when he was growing up, he said he never heard of Ruby Murray.
That guy's a lying through his teeth.
And then when he did hear, he said, I knew nothing about Ruby Murray. He said, I didn't even know where she was from. I thought she was American.
Lying through his teeth.
I think so.
He was told to say that.
Yeah.
Fit, it says here. But given that there wasn't much else on, I stuck it out. I wasn't fussed on watching a programme on the BBC about pro and anti-abortion lobby. Glad to see that you mentioned the hippopotami of Pablo Escobar on BBC4. What a great programme it was. You should watch that. It's a great, great programme. It's on an hour and a half. It's brilliant.
And there was a different Phil Coulter on it.
What kind of Phil Coulter was on it?
It was different. It was
reflective.
It was Phil. No, it was his accent and everything about it. Everything was.
But he thought it was for RTE. You see, you speak differently when you're on RTE.
No, I think he thought it was for
America.
No, Derry.
He became Nadine Coyle, didn't he?
It was Phil. It was the real Phil.
I'm sure that it was wrong. I'm sure that, and this is a terrible thing to say, and I'm sure that people in Derry, Stoke London would probably agree with this. Did I mention this before? I think Nadine Coyle. Let me just say something about Nadine Coyle. I think she's lovely, and I like her a lot, and she's a very nice girl.
Right, yes.
And I met her at an award ceremony the other day, and she was speaking normally, just like you and I. And there was none of that at all. So I never said anything to her. But I suspect that she's been advised badly. I suspect that someone from Derry, Stoke London, Derry being the place that it is, said, Nadine, you better use your accent or people will think you're stuck up. So there she is on Jonathan Ross' show, worrying about what people in Derry think about her. Coyle's interrupted reverence and respect for the law of the land is not shared by many of his fellow citizens. Drastic measures are proposed to right the balance, public execution being one of them.
I'm working on something.
Oh, yeah? It's not like you.
No, I'm thinking...
Your swing, is it?
No. I'm thinking on a way of raising...
Yes.
Elevating off the ground double yellow lines so as people can't park on them. Is there any way we could do that?
You mean take them off the ground, raise them, elevate them?
Would it be possible to have double yellow lines maybe 4 inches off the ground?
Oh, so the people would bang into them?
And unable to park on them.
Why not just build a wall in all the places where you don't like cars?
Would that be possible? I thought there are some sort of studs along.
No, I'll tell you what we should do. I should we could get people...
Tires.
No, here's an idea. Do you know the way a lot of people in the army are sitting around in bases now just doing nothing?
Yes.
Why don't you get them to sit at each street corner?
Yes, anytime post.
Yeah, and anytime they see somebody parking on it, they shoot them. What about that?
Well, just take the car off them. I don't like
shoot the car?
No, just take their car, take their keys off them.
Lost puppy. A bichon frise. Every time I hear bichon frise, you know what I always think of?
Stew.
I always think that... yes.
I was thinking stew.
Maybe you had some bison frise stew recently. But no, let's not talk about that because it's a live animal. As well as being a star broadcaster, the presenter is a celebrated author specialising in a series of autobiographical works that are mostly untrue. Here he defends the good bits. Who's on here now?
Andy.
Where
Hello.
is he? Oh, Andy, hello. Sorry, Andy. How
Hello,
are
I
you?
thought I never was going to get speaking to you then.
Don't be cheeky. We've got a programme to run here.
Listen, I've come on to be nice to you and compliment you on your book Heads.
Oh, thank you.
I've got up to chapter 10 and I'm really enjoying it because I've been laid off.
Oh, yes. I hope you're okay. You're not too bad, are you?
But this book is really cheering me up.
Well, that's good. You know, I'm not used to praise of any kind. Are you enjoying it?
And I was just wondering how much of it is true and how much of it's made up.
Every bit of it is
Not
true.
a word, Andy. Not a word.
Everybody-
Well, no, I would say, Andy.
I just had to turn him off there. It's all true. There's not a word there that has been exaggerated, and there's not a word there that has been made up, and there's not an incident recalled that did not happen, and there's not a thought there that is not genuine. That is mine. And would I lie in a book like that? What am I? Who am I? Hugo? You know, when I happen to believe that when you write a book, it would be there. See, whenever you make radio programs, no one will ever listen to this radio program in 10 or 15 years' time. And if you make any television programs, when they look back on them, they'd only laugh at your tie, right? A book is the only thing that lasts. When I am dead and gone, if I may quote McGuinness Flint, when I am dead and gone, the only thing that will be left that anyone will listen to or even notice are books. So in 50 years' time, somebody will come along and they'll lift that book and say, oh, let's just read that. Now, and you're lying dead, right? And would it be terrible if it was a load of lies? So everything that I write is true.
Do you want me to ask you one or two?
You ask. Go on ahead. I have nothing to fear. Everything that I write is true.
The dog on the boat.
That's absolutely true.
Not at all.
I haven't got that far yet.
Oh, it's all right then. Well, no, okay. All right. Yes, you must. That's at the start
It's
of the
absolutely true.
book. That's at the start of the book.
It's not at the start of the book.
Is it not?
No. And it's absolutely true. How dare you call me a liar?
What about the incidents with the inhalers?
Absolutely true.
Grossly exaggerated.
Absolutely true. Oh, you knew you went there.
Grossly
The
exaggerated.
only thing you ever took was an Aspro and you thought that was high living. You see, don't mind him. You see, what you're dealing with, I have to turn him off for a moment. What you're dealing with is a person who's been malformed. I don't mean physically, but I mean mentally. See, he thinks that many of the things I do can't be true because he never done them. Some of the most exotic things that I've done, he doesn't believe I've done them because he would never consider doing them. There's things that I do that he would never do in a million years. Therefore, when I do them, he doesn't believe I've done them because he wouldn't do them. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The last word from Rosie Ryan from Clogher, mother of the rapidly deteriorating Bon Jovi, enfant terrible. Hello, Enchantress here. When I heard you were running the New York Marathon, my heart swelled with pride and my knees turned into a substance that reminded me of Chivers jelly. Jerry Anderson, 26 miles, said my son, Bon Jovi. That does not compute. I fear Uncle Jerry may succumb to fatigue and lie down on the road like roadkill. Rubbish, was my retort. Jerry has run before, from the law, and crowds of angry dancers looking for their money back after singing his little song. That was different, said Bon Jovi. A marathon is 26 miles. That's almost as far as any man could conceivably move. I lifted my foot and gave Bon Jovi a kick that brought a yell of "Caramba!" from him. Jerry, I am knitting you a pair of running drawers. It's the least I can do. The drawers will come down to below your knee, and I've chosen the colour white. When the drawers are knitted, I will embroider them with green shamrocks around the fork, and on the back, a likeness of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, our late president. There will be 2 pockets to hold your fags and mobile phone. You don't want to be restricted when running, so there will be ample room around the fork. Pace yourself, Jerry. A marathon is all about pace. Don't set off like a blue-arsed fly when you hear the gun, and liquids are very important. On a week before the race, drink a bottle of vodka a day to fend off dehydration. This can be upped to a bottle and a half on the day of the race if you feel nervous. If you require a pee as you run, go ahead. The heavy woolen material will soak it up like a sponge. I will send the drawers up to you by parcel force, so hang around the house to sign for them. The presenter greatly admired the latest film in the BBC series showing the private and sometimes unsavoury lives of their former stars. This week, Hattie Jakes. Next week, Stephen Nolan. But his admiration was reserved for the casting of the man with the big red book. Hello! First of all, it's almost impossible to find somebody who looks like Eamon Andrews. Hello!
But the guy had the side of the mouth and the hair.
That's what I mean. The point is
everything.
the chances of finding somebody who looked like Eamon Andrews, who sounded like Eamon Andrews, nil. The chances are nil. So my suggestion is, and my theory is, that they found this guy and said, right, we'll dub the voice. I think they dubbed the voice. Hello.
Do you think? I don't think so. But
Yeah. How can you get somebody who looks like Eamon Andrews and sounds like him?
I went.
You can't do it. That's like. No, hold on a minute.
Is this Eamon
Imagine
Andrews'
somebody said to
son?
you. Imagine somebody said to you, go out and find somebody that looks like Jimmy Cricket and sounds like Jimmy Cricket. You can't do it. There's nobody like that. There's nobody who looks like Eamon Andrews and sounds like Eamon Andrews. Did you ever meet Eamon Andrews?
Never.
I met him.
Oh, you met him in the showband days, didn't you?
Oh, yes. He used to have a recording studio in
Was
Belfast.
he a very shy man?
A very shy man, a very nice man. Hello, how are you? Good to see you.
Did you see how awkward he was? Which reminded
He was a very shy man.
He reminded me on me at one particular time.
No, he didn't remind me
No.
of you at all because he didn't play golf and he wasn't hateful.
No, my attitude.
No, he didn't remind me of your attitude.
listen.
Your attitude is grasping and menial.
No, did you see him when Spike Milligan came in and threw his arms around
He couldn't.
him?
He
He
didn't
didn't
handle
like
it.
men hugging him.
No, he didn't like that.
He says stop it. He kept saying to Spike Milligan, stop. No.
No, get away from me,
he didn't
Spike.
like-
Get away,
But-
Spike. Spike. Get away, Spike. The presenters brushed shoulders with many of the greats of stage and screen: Hugo Duncan, John Daly, Big O, to name but two. But he remains very down to earth and unaffected by the experience. He puts it down to his early show business career on the mainland. At one stage, when I was very, very young, I was 17 years old, I went to England, to Manchester, to play in a band, in a resident band in an Irish club. It was a foolish thing to do, I know, and it scarred me for life. But we were making no money at all, and we were almost starving. So at one stage, someone said to us, why don't you get some kind of job? This was a revolutionary concept. But at that time, there were many jobs in Manchester. So me and a friend of mine, whom you know, decided to go to the Dole and told them we were poor Irish lads on the verge of starvation and that we needed some kind of a light little job. And we were educated little boys. And so they got us jobs. One of the jobs, my friend, worked in some kind of chemical place where he had to test things. Not a guinea pig, you understand. He worked in some kind. But they sent me to a carpet office.
Yes.
They sold carpets. Now, my job was this. I used to sit at a desk and I had two trays. One was an in tray and the other was an out tray. A man used to come over and leave pieces of paper in the in tray, and then I would read them and put them in the out tray. Yes. I never found out what I was supposed to do to them. As a matter of fact, you can guess, I only lasted a week. But whilst looking out the window, I noticed that on the other side of the street was the stage door of the Palace Theatre in Manchester, on Oxford Street. I think it's Oxford Street, near the centre, near Deansgate, right? So this is in the centre of Manchester. And I looked out, and I realised that you could see actors, famous actors, going in and out. So this is what I spent most of my time doing. And I noticed that at a certain time each day, Kenneth Williams and Dora
Brian.
That's it. How did you know that?
Oh, Dora Bryan.
Dora
Hare, Dora Bryan.
Dora Bryans. Kenneth Williams and Dora Bryans would come out about kind of 1 o'clock. And
Was she Dora Bryans? You're saying Dora Bryans.
I don't know. I'm not saying. I don't know what I'm saying.
I thought it was Dora Bryan.
Will you stop?
Oh, right.
Okay. You know who I mean.
Yes.
And the two of them are, one of them is still alive. Dora Bryans is still alive, I think. But Kenneth Williams obviously killed himself. And what was the last thing he wrote in his diary?
I know, but I forget.
What's the bloody point? What's the bloody point?
It's a great character, wasn't it?
Great character. Yes. Anyway, I noticed that they went out every day at 1 o'clock because that's when I used to go for my lunch. And they went round the corner. And I said, I wonder where they go. So one day I went down and I followed them. And they used to go into a little cafe. And she had a wee sandwich and he had a wee sandwich and a cup of tea. And she said, talking away like that. So I decided to go there. And every day I used to sit beside them and listen to what they were talking about. And finally they noticed me.
Right.
And one of them said, you
Hello.
come here all the time, don't you? I say, as a matter of fact, I do. Where are you from? I said, I'm from Londonderry.
Who's talking to you?
You're Protestant, aren't you?
Who is it? Is this
That's Dora Bryant.
Oh, Dora's-
Kenneth Williams
that's
didn't
right.
talk like that.
No,
So where you
that's
come
right.
from, lad?
Aye.
I'm from Londonderry.
She was a wee bit chinny, wasn't she?
A bit chinny,
Aye, Dora.
and Kenneth Williams said, oh, he'd be sitting like this. No, but it's very funny, actually, and I got to know them quite well. And but I never went out with either of them.
Right. He was 64.
Who was?
Eamon.
When he died. Well, that's young these days. Last year I entered the New York Marathon, said Jerry. The race started and immediately I was last of the runners. It was embarrassing. An American who was in front of me, second to last, was making fun of me. He said, hey, buddy, how does it feel to be last? I said, you really want to know? So I dropped out of the race. The presenter is greatly admired and loved by the populace of his hometown. Beatification, or at least a statue, can't be far away. But some, in Derry/Londonderry, remain among the unconverted. They don't like him at all. Look at this here, look. This is the type of thing that I'm up against, and I know you're up against it, even though you fight it, but you haven't admitted it yet. Kieran Lynch is 45 years old on Friday and is having a big party on Saturday night to celebrate. He hates both Sean Coyle and Jerry Anderson. Guess where he's from? Here.
Right.
You know the way people don't like us here. So his
Speak for
workmates,
yourself.
they don't like you either. No, they don't like you.
I would say that.
No, they know you're crawling to make them like you.
No, that's
But they know
that's
what I
added,
don't care.
That's probably added on.
I'm sorry, it says here he hates both Sean Coyle and Jerry Anderson.
No, I would say.
So his workmates in Thornhill College want Jerry to mention his birthday and say that he often walks along with Kieran as he trains around Culmore and sees Jerry walking along with a supercilious smile on his face. I added that bit.
Yeah.
No, they don't like you either. You think they like you because you lick up to them. They don't like
What do
you.
you mean lick up to
You do.
them?
You
them.
do. You're always trying to. You're always
Them
trying.
up
Look
to
at me,
them.
Let me play this wee song for you. Let me play Roy Orbison. I believe everybody in Derry is watching Shameless.
Excuse me. I was telling Janet this morning on my way down here to
Oh,
work.
it's so warm in here. Excuse me whilst I take off this jumper.
As I was walking down to work this morning, I stopped. I talked to 5 different people.
Men.
Yes.
All
five,
men.
5 men.
Oh, man. Why don't you talk to women sometime?
Yeah. I talked to a man who was out walking his dog.
These men were unemployed with him.
And I asked him, is he a retired gentleman?
Oh.
And I was asking him how far would he walk and where's he going and all that conversation.
They
Then
probably
I-
thought you were from the police station.
No, I knew him. And then I met another man who was a taxi driver, and I asked him how was he coping and does this bad weather suit you or is it bad for business?
Are you working much?
You see?
Yeah.
And I met another man who keeps hens, and I was asking him about his hens.
Look at all the information you have at your fingertips about
This is
hens,
walking-
taxis.
But you're saying, well, how come these people don't? Then I met another man who's working quite close to Radio Foil. He's in the building trade, and I was asking him, what's the building trade like?
Ah!
Is it picking up any? And he was telling me, we're plenty
Picking
of
up a
work.
wee bit,
And and then a gentleman stopped, came running out of a car, and he came over. He's looking directions, and I gave him directions. So there you are. So that was me walking down to work, and you tell me they don't like me?
What a busy boy you are.
Well,
But here's something that doesn't occur to you. Now, let me just say something to you.
Yes.
This may not have occurred to you.
Yes.
Many people talk to you, right? And you think you're making an impression on them. They might go away and say, I don't like him. They might say that. You don't know if they like you or not. Just because they talk to you doesn't mean they like you. They might
Well,
be
the
going on
man
and
who
say,
has the hens is named a hen after me.
what's the hen called? Coilus hennis?
Wee Shanny. Wee Shanny.
Wee shanny?
Yeah. So there you are.
Well, next time you lay an egg, don't be calling for me. And now, some religion and food and sport. Not a bad start to the show at all, Ray Charles. Father Brian Darcy. Father Brian Darcy played some tracks from a singer called Ryan Kelly on Sunday. Can you play a track of his new album, please? Haven't heard it yet. I must ask Brian about it. I will see him. I'll ask him about it tomorrow. Am I cruel or just I'm not cruel, am I? I like the way Brian laughs.
I was going for the last ham sandwich one day.
And what happened?
No, you see, when you're at it was.
And Brian Darcy stole it?
It was half time at a match.
A football match?
And
Where?
We were afterwards.
Where were we?
No,
Was it
you
Gaelic
weren't-
match?
You weren't there.
Well, was it Father Brian Darcy there?
A friend.
What was he doing?
Brian-
It must have been a Gaelic match.
Yes, Brian Darcy was there, and we were.
Where was it? Come on, paint a picture.
It was
Where
at
was it?
Clonus.
All right.
All right.
Don't
right.
jump down me throat.
All
Clonus, all right.
Okay. And
Who was playing?
We were all there.
We were all there.
Oh, we're in the dressing
Who are
room.
we?
You don't know.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
No,
Who are we?
because you're not interested. You're not interested.
No, I'm not really. You're right. Okay, go
Anyway,
ahead.
we were there, and it was, and you get tea and sandwiches.
Up Tyrone.
Aye, and I was hungry,
Yes.
and I know you don't be too greedy because it was my first time experiencing that.
Uh-huh.
See? But and I had a couple of sandwiches. Sandwiches were lovely. And I said, I'm having a rake of them.
GAA sandwiches are great.
Aye, I'm having a rake.
They're not like we Protestant sandwiches.
I'll tell you who loves them.
Who?
Jackie.
Jackie loves them.
Jackie loves
I'll have
them.
another one of those GAA sandwiches.
Jackie loves them. And I said, I'm going to have a rake of them.
Uh-huh.
But they just go like piranha fish, you know what I mean?
Catholics
But
are hungry.
Yes, there were some left, and I sort of got near the plate.
Uh-huh.
And then suddenly there were 3, and I said, right, I better move quick. And a man talked to me, and then suddenly there was only 1. I said, geez, I better get that ham sandwich. And as I was reaching over for it, Brian Darcy went, ho, 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 the last one, ho, 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 ho. And I looked at him eating it, and
the clerical hand reached over. The papal hand reached over.
They all knew it was for Darcy. I didn't know. You don't touch the last one. It's for Darcy.
It's the father's sandwich.
That's the sandwich belonging to the father.